Hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of the Speedrunner 0218 December Mania. In the previous video, we did the Kanto starters in Pokemon Yellow, and that was honestly quite an interesting race, but now we are on to Generation 2. Today, we are going to see how fast the Johto legendary beasts, Raikou, Entei, and Suicune can beat Pokemon Crystal in a solo run. The rules are in the description if you want to reference them later, but in summary, I can only use the main Pokemon in battle, I can only use Pokeballs in battle, and I'm not allowed to use the TM for Double Team until level 100, and we'll be ending the run after we beat Red. So get ready for an awesome action-packed run. So let's get into the video, shall we? Let's start things off with the electric-type Johto Pokemon, Raikou. Raikou is the first of the 3 Johto beasts, and our starting moveset is Bite and Leer. All of the Johto beasts will start with Bite and Leer, but after that, their movesets are going to differ greatly. Raikou will get access to Thunder Shock at level 11, and then Spark at level 41, and then Crunch at level 61. The other moves I really don't care about. But the moveset though is only half the picture. Do we have the stats to utilize our moveset efficiently? If you look at Raikou's stats, we have 90 HP, 85 attack, 75 defense, 115 special attack is really good. So I'm pretty sure we can utilize our electric moves quite nicely. And 100 special defense and 115 speed, we're going to be tanking special hits quite well, and pretty much nothing is going to outspeed us, so that's really good to see. Unlike Generation 1, there is no TM for Thunderbolt, but on Wednesday and Saturday, after you beat Lance, you can go to the game corner and in exchange for 4,000 coins, a move tutor can teach us Thunderbolt. But my rule is, for Johto playthroughs, I'm not allowed to change the day of the week or the time of the day once I start the run, so if I wanted this, I would have to play on a Wednesday or a Saturday. But most runs I just play on Sunday just so I can get the TM for return, which for 99% of Pokemon will be very useful. But other than Thunderbolt, our main notable TMs are Headbutt, Zap Cannon, Hidden Power, Iron Tail, Thunder. We get Rain Dance too if we want to use that with Thunder. And we also get Return, Dig, and Mud Slap. Mud Slap we get right after Faulkner, which can help us deal with the Geodude in the Union Cave. Plus it's just an extra coverage move, plus we can use those cheesy accuracy strats if we wanted to. Now that we're finished talking about Raikou's moveset, let's see how he does in the first part of the game. I defeat a lot of the mandatory trainers on the early routes. I do defeat a lot of optional runs too, just because all 3 of the Johto beasts are in the slow experience group. So we're gonna need all the experience we can get. However, this is the Johto region where the trainers are generally a lot lower level compared to you. That doesn't mean we're gonna be fighting every single trainer. I mainly just fight the early game trainers and skip the mid game trainers and fight late game trainers. That's generally the best way to go in Johto. Once I arrive in Violet City, I can either go take on Faulkner right away or go up the Sprout Tower and get Flash. Flash is technically not required, but I do need Flash if I want to go through Rock Tunnel to the power plant, or get a rare candy in the Whirl Islands. There is a way to get the candy without Flash, but it is really hard for me, but I just do it. And besides, the Sprout Tower provides some pretty good training. With some Pokemon I actually will skip the Sprout Tower if they're going to struggle against the Grass-type Bellsprout here, or if I just don't need the Whirl Island candy. If I do need the candy, then I will get Flash. That's basically how I run. Then, as soon as I defeat Elder Lee, I get the HM for Flash, I escape rope out with the escape rope that's conveniently nearby, and then due to my electric typing, obviously the Flying Gym is going to be no issue at all. His Pidgeotto though does have Mud Slap, so it could choose to do that to lower my accuracy, but since I outspeed his entire team, and I have a super effective Thunder Shock, I really don't think that's going to be an issue. And Raikou defeats Faulkner with a real life time of 9 minutes and 15 seconds. That is not a bad time, but we still have Entei and Suicune to go through, so let's start with Entei. Entei, just like Raikou, will start with Bite and Leer, but however, this isn't going to be as good as Raikou because if we take a look at the stats, we have 115 HP and 115 attack, which is really good attack. However, our special attack is 90, which isn't great. It's not bad either, but it's just for a legendary that's really not good. Plus in this generation, Bite is a special move, and Bite and Leer really do not combo well due to Bite being special, so I'll have to look at my other moves. At level 11 we can get Ember, and then 31 is Fire Spin, which is just trash. I know in Generation 1 it's a very broken move, but this is in Generation 1, so let's just forget about that. At level 41 we get Stomp, which is a really good 65 power physical move, but the thing is, by that point, I'm gonna have Return, and it'll probably outbeat Stomp's power, so it's honestly not that useful. And then at level 51, we get Flamethrower. That is actually really useful, because that means we don't have to use the Game Corner move tutor if we want it. And if we take a look at our TM list, we get some pretty similar TMs to Raikou, like Headbutt, Hidden Power, Rain Dance for some frickin' reason, Solar Beam, which is actually going to be very helpful near the end of the game. And then we can get Iron Tail, Return, Dig, and Mud Slap, and Fire Blast. Fire Blast, Thunder, and Blizzard, those TMs, those are in the Game Corner for 5,500 coins, but you can buy them any day of the week. But 5,500 coins is around 110,000 Pokédollars, plus we're going to get Flamethrower. I really do not think we're going to need Fire Blast. So yeah, based on Entei's moveset and stats, we're pretty much going to be a physical attacker, plus Flamethrower for some coverage. So Return will be very helpful when I get to it, but that's not here or there. As soon as I arrive in Violet City, I actually choose not to go into the Sprout Tower and I go straight to Falkner. I really do not need the training right now, I just want to get Falkner out of the way. However, I only have Bite for his Pokemon instead of a move like Thundershock, so it is going to take several extra hits in order to take out, but I eventually take out Falkner with a time of 7 minutes flat. I know that's faster than Raikou, but you gotta remember Raikou did the Sprout Tower, so don't take these splits into account just yet. And besides, we still have Suicune to go over, so let's take a look at Suicune. There is some interesting things with Suicune's moveset in Generation 2, so I'm actually going to go over the base stats first. We have 100 HP and 115 defense and special defense, so Suicune is the more defensive tank of the trio. Plus 75 attack is really awful for a legendary, and we also get 90 special attack and 85 speed. 85 speed is still pretty good, but there might be some Pokemon along the line that we may not be able to outspeed. I'm mainly thinking of stuff on Lance or Red's team, but we'll see. And due to our low attack, I can tell you we are not using Return for this run. Suicune is the only one of the three I actually play on a Wednesday, because I will get the tutor move Ice Beam from the Game Corner when I beat Lance. So speaking of Ice Beam, let's take a look at the moveset. Fun fact, our moveset is different in Gold and Silver compared to Crystal. In Crystal, they really made it better. Let's talk about the Gold version one first. We start with Bite and Leer, and then Water Gun at level 11, Gust at level 31. I still have no idea why this thing gets Gust, but moving on. Level 41 we get Bubble Beam, and then level 61 Mirror Coat. It just deals back double the damage when you get hit with a special move. I don't really know why we learned that. I don't really think I would use it either. But we're not playing Gold and Silver, we're playing Crystal. In Crystal, instead of Water Gun at level 11, we get Bubble Beam at level 11. And at level 21, we get Rain Dance. And at level 41, instead of Bubble Beam, we get Aurora Beam. So we actually get an Ice move by level up. So yeah, it's a good thing we're doing Crystal version. Other than the level up moveset, the TM learn set is pretty much the same. We get Headbutt, Hidden Power, Blizzard, Icy Wind, Rain Dance, Iron Tail, Return, Dig, and Mud Slap. I can guarantee you most of these physical moves we're pretty much not going to use because of how bad our physical attack is. I might end up using Mud Slap for coverage or something, but we'll have to look and see. Now with all of the movesets and stuff talked about, let's take a look at what our rival's going to have. In all of my runs, I always replace the grass type starter so the rival uses the fire team. I know a lot of people will make the starter have either the hardest option for your starter or the easiest. However, I like to just play consistent because when I compare Pokemon on my leaderboards, I want to actually compare everyone fairly, and I think if everyone had to face different rival teams, it actually could skew some Pokemon's time, so they may not be a fair comparison. Like for example, if I was using a Magneton and I was facing the Bayleaf team, I would actually have a lot of struggle. Or if I was using something powerful like Dragonite, and pretty much Dragonite can take on anything. The hardest one might just be the Feraligatr, just because it might get an ice move. I don't remember if it does, but that's just a thought off the top of my head. So just for consistency's sake, I like to always face the fire team. And besides, some Pokemon will have an easy time, like Suicune. Some will have a difficult time, like if I was using a grass type. Suicune is going to be making some pretty similar plays to Entei. As soon as I get into Violet City, I choose not to go face the Sprout Tower, but this time, instead of actually not needing the experience, Suicune is actually weak to the Bellsprout, so I really don't want to waste time fighting grass types. So I just go straight to Falkner, defeat his team real easily, and get a split of 6 minutes and 33 seconds. If we take a look at the splits so far, Suicune is in first place with a time of 6:33, with Entei closely behind, and Raikou is quite a bit behind. But that's because Raikou's the only one that did the Sprout Tower. So let's take a look at some of our splits later, but for now, let's move on to the rest of the game. I know I haven't discussed what chapter we're on yet, but I didn't want to make a chapter 1 Falkner split for Crystal because literally no one struggles with Falkner. But the next section of the game we're doing is chapter 1, the early game. This will go pretty much up until, I'd say the end of Morty. So why don't we check these splits out. As I head down through the route below Violet City, one thing I would like to mention, if you go to this grass right here, there actually is a repel. You're actually not able to buy repels in Violet City, so this one repel here, if I use it properly, it'll last me through the Union Cave all the way into Azalea Town. Speaking of Azalea Town, as soon as I enter, I go behind this Slowpoke well here to get the full heal, which can help in an emergency like if I get paralyzed or something. And then in the Slowpoke well, there is a bunch of Rocket Grunts who I easily take out, and then as soon as I'm done, Kurt actually heals up my team for me. He actually does not do this in the remakes, funny enough. Or I guess that's sad because now whenever I play that game, I have to heal at the center afterwards. Oh well, that's just a problem for another day. And now I can enter the second gym and take on Bugsy. Bugsy is really never hard because he has a Metapod and a Kakuna. The main thing on his team that's difficult at all, or could potentially be difficult, is the Scyther. Although the Kakuna could poison me with Poison Sting, but that's a much rarer chance. For Raikou, the Scyther is a 2-shot with Thunder Shock thanks to its part flying typing. And then afterwards, I can take on Rival 2. Rival 2 is pretty much the hardest rival in this game because all the other ones are easy as On the first Pokemon, Ghastly, I use Thundershock to deal 4/5, and then it hits me with Hypnosis, and I stay asleep for quite a while, and it just keeps spamming Lick, but luckily when I'm asleep it can't paralyze. I then wake up and use Bite, and I level up to level 17. Next up is the Quilava. Thundershock deals a third, I get hit with Ember, finally using up my berry from the start of the game, and then I quickly take out the starter, and then Zubat goes down to 1 Thundershock. You know, I probably should have used Bite on the Ghastly instead of Thundershock to avoid that Hypnosis, but oh well, it's not like it cost me a reset or anything. I then go through the Ilex Forest, getting this Farfetch back to his owner, and I get the HM for Cut. My main Cut user in these playthroughs is either Sentret or Bellsprout. I try to find a Sentret early on, but if I don't find one, I try and find a Bellsprout. If I don't find a Bellsprout, there are Sandshrew in the Union Cave. If I don't find a Sandshrew, I'll have to spend time in the Ilex Forest at night finding an Oddish. Or a Paris. Just one of the two. And then in the Ilex Forest, there are actually 2 Ethers on the ground. One of them is visible and the other one is hidden. These aren't helpful now, but when I do stuff like the long rocket portion where I do tons and tons of trainer battles, these Ethers can come in handy. Now we are in Goldenrod City. The first thing I do is heal at the center to set it as a teleport point, and then after that, there's a lot of different errands you have to do in Goldenrod. First things first, I go in the underground path and defeat all the trainers down here, not because they're decent XP, but because some of these trainers are mandatory when you have to come back here later, so I just defeat them all while I'm here. Plus the coin cases down here if I wanted to get Thunderbolt or Ice Beam or Flamethrower from the Game Corner guy, or if I wanted to just buy Fire Blast or something. Fun fact, this guy here with a Licky Tongue actually has the move Cut. Licky Tongue doesn't learn Cut by level up, this was just a custom move that this guy got. I also choose to get a haircut down here too. If you look at the left side of my HP value, that green number is my friendship. I can actually see how much extra friendship I get from the haircut. It's actually a random amount. It goes anywhere from +1 friendship to +10, and as you can see there, I got +3. It's honestly just nice seeing like how much friendship I get. The main reason I have the friendship visible on my Gen 2 overlay only for now is because in order to get the TM for return, you need to have at least 160 friendship in order to even get the TM. So this tells me if I'm able to go get it or not. Plus, it also tells me when return will be stronger than headbutt. Like if I use something and I taught it headbutt from that TM, if I want to replace it with return, I can actually see when return will be more powerful. I did the math. I have to be at least 185 friendship to be better than headbutt. After I'm done with the underground, I get the bicycle. I know a lot of people, except for Squidgy, don't really like using the bike in Gen 2, but I've been learning to utilize it quite nicely. Plus I am on 3 times speed, so it actually isn't that bad. Next, I enter the Goldenrod radio tower. I have a little tradition when I play Gen 2 games, even in my randomizers. I always like to play the lottery just to see if I win anything. It hasn't happened yet as of this recording, but still, you never know. Then after that, I can talk to this girl right next door in order to get the radio card. The radio card isn't needed right now, it's needed for the Poke Flute to wake up the Snorlax and Kanto. I then use the coin case I got in the bottom of the underground path, and I use it to buy an Abra. This Abra is going to be my teleport user. It actually will be helpful in a couple of spots. Like for example, I have to go north from Goldenrod City, defeat a bunch of trainers along the way just because they're a huge cluster of them, and the training can be helpful for Whitney. Plus in Crystal version, you have to go all the way to the Pseudo-Widow tree where this girl is here. You have to talk to her in order for her to go back to the garden house in Goldenrod, and then you can teleport back to Goldenrod, and then when you beat Whitney, you can get the Squirt Bottle, which is used to get the Pseudo-Widow out of the way. But before we can do that, like I said before, we have to fight Whitney, so let's take her on. Whitney starts off with Clefairy, and I send out my Raikou. The Clefairy can either be easy or hard, it depends on what it uses with Metronome, but with Raikou, I use Bite on it twice. Both times it crits, and I even get a flinch on one of them too. And then Bite I use to 3-shot the Miltank. Well, that was easier than expected. And then when I go back up to the Pseudo-Widow, before I wake it up, I actually go into the National Park and get the TM for Dig. Dig is actually very helpful when you go out of the way to get rare candies. Like there's a rare candy in Mount Mortar, there's the one in the Whirl Islands I talked about. Of course I can just buy escape ropes, but that costs money. And besides, I actually wanted Dig on Raikou's moveset. The move Dig is mainly to help me with Morty, and it's also to help me with Jasmine too. So that's what Dig is for. But then as soon as I get to the Pseudo-Widow tree, you can tell I was a bit rusty at Crystal at the time. Raikou was the first playthrough I did of the 3. I forgot to get the Squirt Bottle. I was supposed to do that after I defeat Whitney, so I have to teleport back. I just get return while I'm here because I'm able to get it. Oh, I was wrong last time. It's at least 150 friendship, not 160. Anyway, I get the Squirt Bottle, go back and actually move the Pseudo-Widow, and then I arrive in Ecruteak City. The first thing I always like to do here, besides healing at the center if I need to, is fight the Kimono Girls. When you defeat the Kimono Girls, this gentleman will give you the HM for Surf. You have to have Morty's badge though in order to use Surf. But we're not going to be fighting Morty just yet. I actually go east onto Route 42 towards Mahogany Town. What I like to do is you can actually go to the east of Ecruteak, go up to the Lake of Rage and defeat trainers, and then you can teleport back after getting Hidden Power if you wanted to. And if you need more training, you can actually go west and actually take out the lighthouse. because a lot of these trainers are mandatory anyway. You have to pass through these areas, so you can actually get a lot of extra experience for Morty. Plus, when you get Fly after beating Chuck, you can just fly back to all these places so you don't have to walk there again. Plus, in the Lake of Rage, there's actually a rare candy right by this hidden powerhouse, so after I grab the rare candy and hidden power itself, I teleport back to Ecruteak City, and I teach Raikou hidden power in the place of Leer. Put your guesses in the comments what hidden power type we have. I will reveal what it is as soon as we use it. You can actually guess for all three of them. I think I use hidden power for all three of them. I generally do use hidden power for almost every Pokemon, so let's see if you're right. I then go west and arrive in Olivine City. One of the first things I do is get the Good Rod. I also get Strength as well, but the main reason I need the Good Rod is because there's a 55% chance in the water here to get Krabby, and Krabby will be our Surf, Whirlpool, and Strength user. It won't be our Waterfall user because it can't learn Waterfall, but that's what the Dratini is for after Claire. As soon as I catch the Krabby, I go through the Olivine Lighthouse, defeat the mandatory trainers going up, and then I talk to Jasmine, who's right next to the sick Ampharos. Even though I don't have the secret potion, you actually have to talk to her in order to be able to get the secret potion in the first place. Plus, as I go down the floors of the lighthouse, down here there actually is another rare candy. So I go get it, use an escape rope, and now I have to bike all the way back to Ecruteak. I could have just teleported, but I accidentally healed in Olivine City, so that moved my teleport location, so I actually had to bike back. It's not that big of a time loss, but still a time loss nonetheless. And then as soon as I get back into Ecruteak City, since this is Pokemon Crystal, the rival in the Burn Tower is actually mandatory. But to be honest, we're almost level 30 at this point. His Pokemon are barely over level 20, so this fight is really not worth talking about. So let's just skip straight to the Morty battle. In this battle, he starts off with Ghastly. On the first turn, I use a Bite for the easy one-shot. Next up is his Haunter. I don't think this will be a one-shot. Oh, never mind. Anyway, the Gengar will definitely not be a one-shot. See, I told you. But then the one turn it actually could attack, I actually got a flinch on it. So I'm actually going to win this fight completely damageless, which is just hilarious. And then I defeat Morty with a time of 39 minutes and 18 seconds. This is pretty much the early game for Crystal, so let's take a look at the other two in this section of the game. With Entei, I actually do the Sprout Tower after I beat Faulkner, because I still need the Whirl Island rare candy, plus Flash is generally quite useful to have, especially for Gen 2, because Gen 2 caves are really dark. Plus, the training is going to be really good for Entei, since all the Bellsprout here can easily die to fire moves. I mean, I have Bites still for half of these trainers, but when I do get Ember, then it's going to take a lot of damage. While I go through the routes south of Violet City and through the Union Cave, I accidentally meet a lot of different spinners, so I do have to do more training here than I originally intended. But what can you even do about Gen 2 spinners? Gen 2 spinners are like the most erratic, unpredictable spinners in all of Pokemon. I mean, in Gen 3, there is a trick I can do by opening the bag menu, which actually pauses spinners for like half a second on normal speed, which is enough time to walk past them. Oh, I never mentioned this with Raikou, but whenever I enter Azalea Town, this is when I can actually buy repels. So when I buy repels for the run, this is always the first spot I get them. The second spot I buy repels is all the way in Olivine City, where I buy super repels. And those supers will pretty much last me the entire run. I feel like I don't need to say this, but the bug type gym with a fire type Pokemon is just super easy, so I really don't have to talk about this place too much. And now on Rival 2, I mean, technically I do have a disadvantage with his starter because fire on fire really is not a good matchup. That just creates more fire. But we'll see how this goes. The Ghastly goes down with a Bite, obviously, and then next up is the Zubat. I just use Ember on that and it lives on half health. I mean, even though Ember has less base power than Bite, due to Stab, they're effectively doing the same damage. And on the Quilava, it looks like to be a 4-hit with Bite, and it could use Smokescreen to just mess with me, but luckily I get a crit, so it ends up being a 3-hit instead. Alright, I'll take it. I catch an Oddish in the Ilex Forest for my Cut user, and then I go through the forest and make it to Goldenrod City. I'm not going to go over all the errands I did again, but just know that pretty much every Pokemon has to do the same stuff Raikou just did. Hopefully I remember to get the Squirt Bottle this time. Oh yeah, if you see on my moveset, in the Ilex Forest, there's a guy who gives you the TM for Headbutt. I actually do teach Entei this move, which is my first physical move. Because if you look at my stats, my attack is pretty much 50% higher, I'd say, than my special attack. So I'm definitely going to need a good physical move. Alright, let's see how the Whitney battle goes. Let's see if her Clefairy is able to use Metronome this time. I use Headbutt to deal over half, and then it Metronome's Dizzy Punch. Luckily, that does not confuse me. And then on Headbutt, I use it on the Miltank, I get a flinch, it tries to use Rollout, but luckily I flinch, breaking its combo, and thanks to Headbutt, it's just never able to get a Rollout combo. This Miltank is the main reason I actually get Headbutt. I know Bite can also flinch, but Headbutt would do more damage than Bite would because of the extra attack, so I actually just get Bite instead. After I beat Whitney, I go up to the Pseudo Widow Tree, talk to the girl, teleport back. Let's see if I actually go get the Squirt Bottle, and it looks like I do. So yeah, I'm actually going to gain a bit of time over Raikou because of this. But will it be enough to get into first place over Suicune? Because Raikou was in last place in the last split. I know that was because of Sprout Cower, but after Morty we should definitely get some more comparable splits. Unless one of the legendary dogs skips extra training. In that case, the splits will be very much different from each other. After I arrive in Ecruteak City, I take out the Kimono Girls, and I do the training to the east of Ecruteak City up to the Lake of Rage. Unfortunately, on this one trainer near the Lake of Rage who has a Slowbro, I get a bit of bad luck with this Pokemon using Water Gun, and I actually get knocked out, and I haven't saved in a bit, so I actually have to let everything black out and teleport back to Ecruteak. So yeah, that's a bit of a time loss. I go back to that trainer and get my revenge, and then as soon as all the trainers are defeated, I go get the rare candy and hidden power just like Raikou did. Don't forget to leave your guess in the comments what hidden power we have. Then, as soon as I take out the trainers to the west of Ecruteak and I go all the way up to the top of the Olivine Lighthouse, I get the rare candy here like before, and then I get out and go all the way back to Ecruteak. Then I can easily take out Rival 3, who's almost always never a challenge, and then I can take on the 4th gym leader Morty. On his Ghastly, I use Hidden Power for neutral damage. I mean, that's not a good indicator to what it is yet, but we'll get there when we get to it. And then on the Haunter, it uses a Curse, which funnily enough actually knocks it out. And then on the Gengar, I use one Dig to take it out in one shot. It was a critical hit, but to be honest, with 100 attack, I don't even know if that was even needed. So I defeat Morty with a time of 40 minutes and 57 seconds. Alright, now we've just got Suicune. I don't want to sound too repetitive because in Johto, pretty much every Pokemon has to do the same sort of mandatory battles and just has an easy time with everybody. So with Suicune, I'm just going to talk about the gym leaders in Rival 2. For Bugsy, you may notice I now have Bubble Beam. Compared to the other Johto Bees, this is my most powerful stab move compared to them, but as you can see on the Scyther, due to my lower offensive capabilities, it is actually a 3-shot on the Scyther instead of a 2-shot like it was for Raikou and Entei with Thundershock and Ember. Rival 2, on the other hand, is really easy, especially since he has the Fire Starter, so yeah, just a complete breeze with Bubble Beam. I teach Cut to my Bellsprout, and then I can go through the Ilex Forest and into Goldenrod City. Let's just skip straight to the Whitney battle. Let's see if her Clefairy uses a Metronome this time. I use Bite, it gets a flinch. It uses Double Slap, I get another Bite, and it flinches again. So yeah, no Metronome. And then on the Miltank, I use Bubble Beam for a quarter, and then I realize I should probably use Bite to try and break the rollout chain, but I don't get flinches, rollout doesn't miss, and I get my very first reset of the whole video. I fight some more of the trainers around the gym, and I level up on some other trainers to get to level 20 over a damage rounding threshold. Even though I'm level 19 for the Clefairy will get me to level 20 for Miltank. And then when I get to the Miltank, it's starting to stack up rollouts again. And what I realized is, it actually outsped me by 1 point. If I actually outsped the Miltank, then Bite would actually have a chance to flinch, but Luckily, the damage rounding threshold does make a difference, and I'm able to knock out the Miltank, so at least we don't have to go train more or get another reset. I then go into the gate right here to get the Kenya Spearow. This Kenya is the fly user for every single run I do. I may have not mentioned it for Raikou and Entei, but I just assumed it was just industry standard since this flying type is literally given to you for free, so why not would you use it as a fly user, but I just figured I may as well just mention it since with Suicune there's really not much else to talk about. That's the thing with my versus races. The first Pokemon I talk about, I go into detail about the run. The second Pokemon, I kind of gliss over some of the small details. And then the third one, I just do the mandatory battles. Do you all like this method of me covering the races? So that way I don't repeat, oh yeah, I fought Juggler Irwin here, and he had a Voltorb. You don't have to hear that more than once. So let me know in the comments what you think of this method. For Suicune, I actually do the training a bit differently. I take out the Kimono Girls, but instead of going east right away, I actually go west towards Olivine City. There's really no reason you would do one direction over another. You could do the west direction first if you don't need hidden power, or it could just be a preference thing, like if you had to do 3 runs in a row and you just wanted a change of pace. After I finish up the lighthouse, I go back to Ecruteak City and do the training to the east. If you look at my moveset now, I have Bubble Beam like before. I actually have Rain Dance on my moveset, which I stated at the start of the video I actually get by level up. This isn't going to help now, but I think for some fights this will come in handy. Plus, I now have Surf on my moveset. You may be wondering why do I have Surf and Bubble Beam? And the main answer is just for PowerPoint purposes. There's a lot of mandatory trainers in Crystal, so you just want all the power points you can get so you don't have to constantly heal at Pokemon centers or use your very limited supply of ethers. Also, remember how I said at the start of the video, Suicune I actually played on a Wednesday so I can get Ice Beam? Well, if you play on a Wednesday, there's a guy here who blocks the rare candy here. This guy is the guy, he's one of the Day of the Week siblings. He gives you the black belt, I think it is. And he blocks off the rare candy, so I honestly should have played on a Saturday instead when this guy isn't here, but that's a lesson for another day. I can live without a rare candy. And then after I get hidden power, I can teleport back to Ecruteak, easily take care of Rival 3, and now at Morty, Surf on a water type is pretty much just one of the most powerful moves of all time. Like, it's so powerful. I could have one-shot the Gengar if I was level 33, or if I chose to set up a Rain Dance. I chose not to set up Rain Dance because I wasn't sure if I needed it. But it doesn't matter, I take out Morty's team and get a split of 37 minutes and 35 seconds. Now our 3 contenders are starting to get close together. Suicune is now in first place with a time of 37:35. Raikou is in second place, followed very closely by Entei. I'm actually surprised Suicune is in the lead despite that reset it had. But still, we still have a lot of more of the game to go. This next chapter will consist of the rest of the Johtonian gym leaders. This is what I like to call Chapter 2, The Rest of Johto. During this chapter, as the name may suggest, we just have to take on the rest of the Johto gym leaders and finish up Team Rocket. For Raikou, the first gym leader I go to take on is Chuck. I take a brief swim down to Cianwood City, where the gym leader Chuck resides. Chuck only has 2 Pokemon. He leads off with Primeape. On the first turn, I go for Thundershock, which does about half damage. Primeape just goes for a pathetic Fury Swipes, and then it misses the second one, and I knock it out. The Poliwrath is weak to electric moves, so it will be a 2-shot with Thundershock. Its only turn to attack, it did go for Hypnosis, but luckily it missed. Also, fun fact, in Gen 2, the AI has a built-in 25% chance on top of the move's accuracy to miss if the move is a status condition move like Thunder Wave or Hypnosis. In Gen 1, this was moves that lowered stats, like Sand Attack. So yeah, in Gen 2, they changed it to status condition moves. I usually get mixed up between the two, but I figured I'd mention that. Next, I fly all the way to the Lake of Rage, take out the Gyarados, and then I do the Rocket hideout in Mahogany Town. This section of the game is just really boring. No trainer here is ever challenging at all. and then as soon as I take out all the rocket grunts and take out the electrode, Lance gives me the HM for Whirlpool. I can then get out of here and take on Price. Even though Price is technically considered the 7th gym, he's weaker than Jasmine, and Price is literally right here, so I may as well just take him on. This may go tough because his lead Pokemon is a ground type, but anyway, on his first Pokemon Seal, I use Thundershock for the one-shot. I still don't have Spark yet. Next up is Piloswine. I misclicked and go for Thundershock, but all it does is use Mist. It's a good thing the Piloswine doesn't have a ground move. If the Piloswine had Dig or something, Price could actually be a more challenging foe. But right now, Bite is just a 3-shot, and I just have to hope Blizzard does not freeze me. Luckily, it never went for Ice Beam, so my speed never dropped. And then on Dewgong, I use Thundershock for over half, I paralyze it, get hit with a Roar Beam, and then the second Thundershock takes out the Dewgong. Next up is the gym leader Jasmine. Jasmine's pretty much the most challenging gym leader in Johto aside from Claire, so let's see how this goes. On the Magnemite, I use Dig for the one-shot since it's 4 times weak. This was the main reason I got Dig in the first place, because this would be a lot harder without it. Now is for the hard one, the Steelix. I go for Hidden Power, which does neutral damage. My Hidden Power, I will reveal, is Hidden Power Ice. Hidden Power Ice is generally a good typing for the Steelix, but the main reason I want it is for Lance. But unfortunately on the Steelix, I get hit with too many Iron Tails, and Raikou gets its first reset. On the second attempt, I use Hidden Power, which I actually get a high roll on. It does over half damage, and then the next one actually knocks out the Steelix. So yeah, this Steelix is the #1 reason why Jasmine is probably the hardest gym in Johto. I mean, I know Claire can be tricky too, but depending on the Pokemon, it's Jasmine. And before I can take on Claire, who would be the end of this section of the game, I'd have to take on the entire Goldenrod radio tower. This thing is basically like the rocket hideout for Mahogany, except there's twice as many rocket grunts. However, before I go ahead at it, I go back to Goldenrod City and I finally teach Return. The main trainer in the entire radio tower I would even consider a challenge sometimes is the executive with the 5 coughing and the wheezing. The main thing is, if you can't knock out the coughing in one hit, it could use self-destruct, it could use smokescreen, or it could just use sludge and has a chance to poison you. The wheezing will pretty much always survive a hit no matter what, especially with Raikou here, but the main thing is, if you can't knock out the coughing, RNG could really become a heavy factor. And then once I defeat this guy, he'll give me the basement key so I can go rescue the director, but as soon as I enter the basement, I take on Rival 4. This rival battle is usually pretty easy, but I have had some runs where the luck went bad and I got a reset, so we'll actually cover this fight and see how it goes. This time he leads off with Golbat. Thundershock surprisingly does the one hit. I actually thought it would have survived. Anyway, on Magnemite, I no longer have Dig, so I have to use Hidden Power on the Magnemite because I taught Return over Dig. And then on the Haunter, I go for Bite, but unfortunately I get outsped due to paralysis, and I get hit with Curse, and then Shadow Ball knocks me out. On the second attempt, I still get paralyzed by the Magnemite, and then once I get to the Haunter, luckily it goes for Shadow Ball instead of Curse, so one bite can knock it out. Next on the Sneasel, it uses Feint Attack for little damage. Return almost knocked it out, but not quite, but I'm at 23 HP for the Quilava, but unfortunately I get another loss. I actually realized when attempting these rival battles, I wasn't at full HP, so I honestly should have remembered to use a Hyper Potion or something, but I guess I was just trying to go too fast, and yeah, that cost a lot of time. So yeah, sometimes I just gotta stop playing so recklessly. You know, something I think of putting on my overlay is my current HP instead of my max HP. So that way if I notice it's low, I could actually use a potion. I don't know, we'll see about it though. It's a very easy change. Unfortunately, on Rival 4, I get some of the worst luck I've ever seen, and it took me until 5 resets into the run to actually win. You know, I probably should have kept Dig and maybe teach Return over Bite or something. That probably would have been the better choice, but oh well, we can finally move on now. After I defeat the rival and rescue the director from the basement and get the card key, I go back up the floors to the department store. This is when I do my vitamin buy, because I can still take in plenty of vitamins and I have a lot of money. If I had Pokeruts, I would actually be nearly maxed out on my vitamin usage, but I only play with Pokeruts during the randomizers. So yeah, we can use vitamins. So for Raikou, today's vitamin of the day is calcium. Calcium, even though special attack and special defense is split from special, they both are on the same DV stat, so Calcium still boosts both of those stats. So in Gen 2, Calcium is still one of the best vitamins in the game, followed by Carbos. The last difficult trainer here is the executive on the very top who has a Houndour and a Houndoom. I don't see this guy being difficult for any 3 of our contenders, but I figured during this video I should at least mention where the highlights of the whole rocket radio tower is, so if I struggle, you know it's going to be on one of these few guys. So once I defeat this guy, the rocket radio tower clears out and I can finally move on to Blackthorn City where the gym leader Claire resides. This is why I have Hidden Power Ice. For a lot of Pokemon, if you have good special attack and you don't have a good way to deal with dragons, Hidden Power Ice is usually the way to go. If you're a physical attacker, then Hidden Power Ground is usually the best. But if I'm using a physical attacker, then I'll pretty much use Return against the dragon types. Then on the Kingdra, I use Hidden Power, which does less than half, and then it eventually lands a smoke screen on me, so I switch to Return, which was doing roughly the same amount of damage as Hidden Power, and then I get really low on accuracy, and then it hits me with a Hyper Beam, but luckily I don't miss too many times, and I finally defeat Claire. But I'm not going to split yet. I haven't received the Rising Badge because you have to do the quiz in the Dragon's Den for the Dratini in order to get the badge. I will end up backtracking in the house though to get the free Dratini, which you can get if you answer the questions a certain way, but we are not going to worry about that. Just know I will get the Dratini for Waterfall. Anyway, I solve the quiz, and then I get my 8th badge with a final split time of 1 hour, 13 minutes, and 44 seconds. Not really the best time at this point due to all those resets, but we still have to look at Entei and Suicune, so let's take a look at our first place contender to see what we're competing for with Entei. So let's get to Suicune. In my Crystal playthroughs, after I take out Morty, I almost always fight Chuck first because his badge lets me use Fly outside of battle, and Fly is really helpful in Johto. So on Chuck's Primeape, I almost one-shot it with Surf, but unfortunately I have to take it out in 2 hits. Now for the Poliwrath, I use Hidden Power, which is super effective. My Hidden Power for Suicune is Hidden Power Electric, because I already have an Ice attack for Lance's Pokemon, which I will get at level 41 Aurora Beam, but unfortunately I get put to sleep, and then I get hit with Dynamic Punch, I wake up confused, and luckily I'm able to land a second Hidden Power and knock it out. So yeah, that fight could have gone real sour real quickly, but luckily I was able to wake up. Also, it really frustrates me how in Pokemon, you can actually get confused while you're asleep. Like, that's kind of like stacking status conditions on top of each other. I think it's kind of unfair. Then in Price's gym, when I try and face the gym leader, I fight the optional spinner Douglas. I accidentally encountered him, but it's just cause he's a spinner. Like, half the time I'm in here I encounter him. His team isn't that hard. He does have a Cloyster though for pretty decent XP. But anyway, once I defeat him and get to Price, Hidden Power Electric does really good work at this gym. If I didn't allow Hidden Power or something, I would have to completely rely on Bite or Return or something for this fight. But luckily for the Piloswine, I can just use Surf. So yeah, Price would be a lot harder if I didn't have Hidden Power Electric. So now, before I can do the Rocket Radio Tower, I have to take on Jasmine because Professor Elm will not call you about the Radio Tower invasion until you have 7 badges. So I have to take on Jasmine right away. Even though she has 2 electric-type Pokemon that are Magnemite with Thunderbolt, I'm able to one-shot literally everything on Jasmine's team with Surf, because Suicune is just that good with a same type attack bonus Surf. I could have set up a Rain Dance too if I wanted to, but I just didn't. I don't think I've used Rain Dance once this entire run, but I have it on my moveset just in case it can be helpful, because the only other way to get Rain Dance is the TM from Slowpoke Well, or you'd have to buy it in Celadon City's department store. In this whole entire section of trainers I talked about before, none of them provide a challenge, although on Magnemite on Rival 4, I misclick and go for Aurora Beam instead of Surf, and I get hit with Thunder Wave. This could have been a repeat of Raikou, but luckily, the Haunter doesn't use Curse on me, and I can actually take everything out. But funnily enough, I was actually so confident in Suicune's ability to finish this section of the game, I never ended up healing my paralysis at all. So yeah, I was definitely playing with the devil right there, so I really need to stop doing that. But with the Goldenrod basement out of the way, I can go back up through the department store and buy Suicune's vitamin of the day. And Suicune's vitamin of the day today is 5 calcium and 4 iron. I didn't really want to buy protein or carbos just because Suicune does not need to worry about physical attacks or outspeeding things. I want the calcium to make sure I hit extra hard with Surf, but the iron is mainly just to help with hard-hitting physical attackers later in the game. I just really couldn't think of another vitamin I wanted, so I had to decide on something. Obviously, Suicune is not going to struggle with the executive on top with the Houndoom, since Houndour and Houndoom are both weak to Surf. And then I can go through the entire Ice Cave and get into Blackthorn City and take on Claire. This time though, I don't have to rely on Hidden Power Ice because I have Aurora Beam. If I wasn't playing Crystal version and I was playing Gold version where Suicune does not get Aurora Beam, I would have probably used Hidden Power Ice, but oh well, we don't have to worry about that because I don't play Pokemon Gold in my videos. If anyone wants to know why I don't do Gold, Gold, Silver, and Crystal are 99.9% similar. Like, there's almost no differences. Like, the main difference in a playthrough is literally that Rival 3 in the Burn Tower is mandatory in Crystal but optional in Gold and Silver. That is literally the only difference. If there were like team changes or something, like Diamond and Pearl to Platinum where there were team changes, then I would do Gold version, but since there's basically no differences, I'm not doing Gold version. So if you wanted to know why, that's why. Also, while I'm down here, I didn't show this off for Raikou, so I'll show it off now. There's a Max Elixir here, right next to these girls. There's actually a second Max Elixir in here too, but it's a bit further out of the way, and that one that I just picked up next to those girls is like right on the main path, so I'm just going to pick up that one only and leave. But for Suicune, I finish the quiz in the Dragon's Den and get the Rising Badge with a final split time of 1 hour, 8 minutes, and 57 seconds. That is a really decent time, so let's see how Entei does, so that way we can compare everybody. For Entei, it will have a slightly tough time with Chuck since his Ace Poliwrath is a water type and no Surf, but we'll see how it goes. On the Primeape though, I go for Dig and it does less than half, which is really worrying. So I go for Headbutt instead, and it knocks it out. Then on the Poliwrath, I use a Headbutt, it flinches. I use another Headbutt, it flinches again, and a third Headbutt knocks it out. Are you kidding me right now? I just had a near damageless Chuck fight. That is something I did not expect for Entei. I then get Fly, head over to the Lake of Rage, defeat the shiny Gyarados, do the Rocket Hideout, and then I can get out and take on Price. Obviously I should have a type advantage here because this is the Ice Gym, but his lead Seal is a pure water type. So I go for Dig like an idiot instead of Headbutt. Like, I keep forgetting, in this generation, Dig is only 60 base power. I should be using a Headbutt which is 70. So I'm honestly being kind of an idiot in this run, but hopefully that doesn't bite me in the butt. So once I defeat the Dewgong by just spamming Dig instead of Headbutt, on the Piloswine, I go for Dig again, and it does a quarter damage. The Piloswine hits me with Fury Attack. I'm still using Dig somehow. Okay, there we go. I finally used Headbutt. And then I can take out Price. You know, the reason I mix this up is because in Gen 1, Dig is 100 power. In Gen 4 Beyond, Dig is 80 base power. But in 2 and 3, it's 60. They really kept changing the base power of Dig, and sometimes it's hard to remember. But anyway, one thing I always remember is the fact that I have Ember, so I can actually take out the Steel types. I do use Dig on the Magnemites just because they're 4 times weak, but then on the Steelix I misclick and go for Dig, which does almost no damage. I realize this mistake early on and go for Ember, which almost knocks it out, but not quite. And then Jasmine uses a Hyper Potion, and then 2 more Embers is enough to finish the job. And then there's one final Magnemite, but 1 Ember gives me the victory. Then when I arrive into Goldenrod to do the Radio Tower, I do things a bit differently. I actually go to the department store first. I do my vitamin buy some calciums, but before I do that, I actually get the TM for return. My attack, as I've stated many times, is higher than my special attack, and I finally want return in the place of Headbutt. And at 203 Friendship, I can guarantee you it will be stronger than Headbutt, so I replace it right away. Then in the Goldenrod Radio Tower, on the 5 coughing and wheezing guy, I just use Dig for all of his Pokemon, which deal super effective damage. And then on Rival 4, since I'm the only one of the 3 who had Dig for this fight, I did not need to worry about paralysis. But even if I didn't have Dig, Ember would easily one-shot the Magnemite anyway. Plus, due to the better AI in Gen 2, they'll send out their Pokemon based on like how likely that Pokemon is to defeat you. It mainly looks at types and weaknesses and resistances and stuff like that. He actually sent out his Magnemite last because he knew it was weak to fire. So even then, I wouldn't have to worry about paralysis the entire fight anyway. Funnily enough, on the top floor, the executive before the guy with the Houndoom, I actually almost had a reset on because I got paralyzed by the Arbok using Glare. But luckily, I'm still able to win, but that could have been a really bad reset because I generally almost never save in here because of how easy everyone is. So with the Goldenrod radio tower all taken care of, I go through the ice path and then make it to Claire in Blackthorn City. My hidden power for Entei is the same as Raikou. It is hidden power ice, because I need a good way to defeat the dragon types. So I take out her first Dragonair, and then she sends out her Kingdra right away. I use Return. It uses Surf for a lot of damage, but luckily I'm able to two-shot it. If Kingdra was not able to be two-shot, that Kingdra would have killed me, so it's a good thing I was able to. And then I take out the rest of her Pokemon, solve the quiz in the Dragon's Den, and I can get the Rising Badge for a Johto split of 1 hour, 10 minutes, and 3 seconds. Everybody is really closely contending, but the places overall have generally not changed. Suicune is in the lead still with 1 hour and 8 minutes time, and Raikou is in last place with a 1:13. That is especially thanks to all of those resets on Rival 4. Entei though, at this point, is still at 0 resets. But we still have the Pokémon League, and we still have the entirety of Kanto as well as Red, so things can still go either way. So now, we're going to go on to the next chapter, the Pokémon League. For Raikou, after I get all my badges, I have to catch a Poliwhirl in Ecruteak City, because I accidentally did the quiz wrong and I'm not able to get the Dratini, so I had to catch a waterfall user elsewhere. And at this point in my Johto playthroughs, before I go to Kanto, I like to go all over Johto to get the missing rare candies. This helps just get all the Johto rare candies out of the way, plus they serve as backups in case the Elite Four goes wrong. The first rare candy is in Violet City, where there is also a PP up too, so that may come in handy. The next rare candy is on Route 34, which is south of Goldenrod City. The next rare candy is in the Whirl Islands. It's actually not that hard to get. In Gold and Silver and Crystal, you just have to enter the top leftmost island, use Flash, go down the ladder, hop down some ledges, and here is the rare candy. So yeah, it honestly is difficult to get when you really cannot see, but if you can see, then the rare candy is pretty easy to get. And then after that, there's another rare candy inside a cave called Mount Mortar, but luckily in Crystal version you don't need to use Flash. Fun fact, in Gold and Silver, this cave is actually dark, so you do need Flash if you want to explore the back parts of the cave, but luckily you do not. Because if we had to use Gold and Silver for our randomizers when we go to Mount Mortar to like check TMs and stuff, it would be so bad to come back here. I then fly back to New Barktown, head east to Kanto. This guy is thankfully reminding me because I often forget where I am every day. I get the rare candy right here, and then I can head straight to Victory Road from here. This area has a lot of trainers, so if I want to, I can fight them for the experience. But for Raikou, I actually opt to just skip almost everybody because Raikou is really not going to struggle at the League. And if I'm not going to struggle at the League, it's never worth doing this training. If you need to train for like Blue or Red, then you need to fight some trainers in Kanto who have much higher levels. In Victory Road and Crystal, there are no trainers here, and the only trainer here is just Rival 5 at the end. This is the last time we ever fight the Rival, so let's take a look and see how this fight goes. However, just like previous Rival fights except for Rival 4, this fight is just really easy. Although for Raikou, I have to use Hidden Power on Magneton and it hits me with Thunder Wave. It's fine as long as the Haunter doesn't use Curse, which fortunately it doesn't, and then on the Kadabra, I can just one-shot it with Return, and then on his final Pokemon Typhlosion, I use Spark, which I had taught over Thundershock. It's basically just a more powerful version of Thundershock, so other than the power upgrade, it's very similar to Thundershock. Plus, this is pre-Generation 4, so all electric moves are special, so Spark is not a physical move. But also, look at this Golbat. Thanks to me being paralyzed and Bite just getting an ungodly amount of flinches, this guy. On the next attempt of the rival, I just get hit with Confuse Ray by the Haunter and then hit with Curse, so I just reset. Man, I really should have held on to Dig. Like, I really should have gotten rid of Bite. Like, if I have to go back and do this run eventually, or if I ever do, that is probably the one thing I would do. Keep Dig for as long as possible for this stupid Magneton. Plus, remember I told you earlier that with moves like Thunder Wave and Hypnosis, the AI have a built-in 25% chance to miss? Yeah, I haven't really seen that with the rival's Thunder Wave, which is honestly very annoying. And then look at this, 7 resets in, on the Golbat, I am left at 23 HP left, but luckily for once I don't get a stupid flinch and I can actually win. You know, I'm pretty sure somewhere in the code the ability Serene Grace exists to boost the flinch chances because that was ridiculous. I then enter the Pokemon League itself, buy some full restores, heal at the center, and then I go up the stairs to fight the Elite Four with a split time of 1 hour, 22 minutes, and 48 seconds. We're not going to cover the Elite Four yet until everyone else has caught up. So let's take a look at our first place contender, Suicune. I get all the same rare candies and PP-ups and stuff that Raikou gets, but here's another difference. I actually now do the Sprout Tower because I'm gonna need Flash in order to get that Whirl Island rare candy. So at this point, with me being close to 40 to 50 levels higher than everyone else, yeah, I really don't have anything to worry about with these Bellsprout. So yeah, it's honestly just funny how much you can delay this place. And after I get all the rare candies, I can go on the routes toward Victory Road and fight on some trainers. But on this first trainer, who has a Bulbasaur, Ivysaur, and a Venusaur, I get put to sleep and just hit way too many times, so Suicune now has to endure a blackout. And I have to let everything else faint and go back and try again. You know, on the bright side, even though I have 6 Pokemon, at least since the AI is not stupid, it'll actually knock out my Pokemon quickly. But unfortunately, when going for the blackout, I just go for Strength. I had no idea Strength was going to kill the Venusaur from there. So at this point, I didn't know what to do. I was trying to black out, and instead, I ended up getting a win. So what I decided to do is just fly back to the Pokemon Center, heal, and just move on from that. Even though it is breaking the rules, that trainer is technically a spinner and was optional. It's not like this was a required trainer. And besides, Suicune is kinda having to be punished for that because that Venusaur is worth a lot of experience, and the fact that I'm not going to be able to get it is actually kinda bad. If I had successfully blacked out, I could have gone back to that trainer and fought her whole team again and get the experience twice. So yeah, just because I didn't want to do a second playthrough, we're just gonna accept that and just move on. If you think it's cheating, then that's fine, but I'm not going to do a second run over a small error like that. And besides, you saw what I was doing. I was trying to die. It's just that the Razor Leaf on Venusaur missed, so it was able to get hit. But yeah, I'll try to be more careful next time. I take out the rest of the trainers towards Victory Road as well as Rival 5 without any issues. And then I enter the Pokemon League and enter the Elite Four chambers with a time of 1 hour, 20 minutes, and 12 seconds. Now we just have Entei. The main difference with Entei compared to Raikou and Suicune is that on this route towards Victory Road with the long bridge over the water, I actually use Whirlpool to this small little island. This is where a bird keeper is with Farfetch'd. If you've seen Scott's Thoughts video on Smeargle and Crystal, this guy here is the only trainer in the whole game who has a Pokemon with Swords Dance, so that's the reason I know he's there. But I'm not here for that guy. I'm here for the TM here. The TM here is for Solar Beam. This will actually come in handy for Red, so I'm going to hold on to this till later. I also got Sunny Day from the Goldenrod Radio Tower too, just for that occasion. Because if you have Sunny Day set up, Solar Beam will become a 1-turn attack. So that's why I want both of these for Red. They're not going to be helpful right now, but I'm just holding on to them. After obtaining Solar Beam though, I defeat the rest of the trainers here just as fine, and I can take out Rival 5 and enter the Elite 4 chambers with a split time of 1 hour 17 minutes and 29 seconds. Okay, this time the tides have actually turned. Because Suicune had to do that lengthy blackout, Entei has now taken the lead. Suicune is in second place, and Raikou is still behind in last place. But however, things can still change. So now, let us move on to the final 5 trainers. Let's do this shit. The first Elite 4 member is Will. He specializes in psychic types and he starts with Xatu. I go for turn 1 Spark, which actually knocks out the Xatu. The next Pokemon is Jinx, and I use Return since it has much lower defense than special defense. Now for Exeggutor, it has weaker special defense, so I use Hidden Power Ice for the knockout. Then on Slowbro, I obviously go for Spark, and it actually goes down in 1 hit surprisingly. Slowbro is generally known to survive hits, but at least Raikou had a pretty smooth Will fight. Now for Entei, on the Xatu, I go for Hidden Power Ice, and it barely lives on a sliver of health. It goes for Psychic, lowering my special defense, but I don't really think that should matter. Then on the Slowbro, I go for Return, which does half. Slowbro wastes its time using Amnesia, which is just kind of bad in this generation because it doesn't boost your special attack as well. But then on the second Xatu, it survives from a Return. I get hit with Confuse Ray, and I hit myself not once, but twice. I get hit with a Psychic, and then I finally break through Confusion, use Hidden Power, and then I get hit with Psychic, and Entei now has its first loss. Well, everybody got 1 reset at least. Well, I mean, Raikou got like 7, but yeah. I probably should have been a slightly higher level for Will, so I can actually one-shot some of his Pokemon, but it doesn't matter too much. But actually, now that I think about it, it kinda does. On the second attempt, I actually get knocked out by the Exeggutor. This is why I pick up the rare candies early. I use 2 rare candies to get to level 48, which is over a damage rounding threshold, and with that level obtained, even though I'm still not one-shotting Pokemon consistently, at least they're now within range. I have more HP and attack, and this time I actually win the fight. So yeah, that was kinda bad. For Suicune, the first Xatu goes down to Aurora Beam, as does the Exeggutor. Next up on the Jinx, I don't have any physical moves, so I just have to go for Surf, and then it lives in red health, which is impressive because it has 93 special defense. Then on the Slowbro, I go for Hidden Power Electric, which leaves it around 3/4 HP. It uses Amnesia to try and survive another hit, but luckily it's at too low of HP and I can knock it out. Then on the Xatu, I misclick and go for Hidden Power Electric instead of Aurora Beam, allowing it to live in very, very small red health. But on the next turn, I use Aurora Beam and actually knock out Will. So for Will, only Entei really struggled. Next up is the Poison type Elite 4 member, Koga. He leads with Ariados, and with Raikou, I use Spark and it lives in red health, and then it sets up a double team and it tries to use Giga Drain for pathetic damage, but then I knock it out, get to level 48, and now is the Fortress. I use Spark for 3/4 damage, I get it paralyzed, and the only thing it does is set up Spikes. Spikes is generally useless in a solo run because it only does damage upon switching in. I think maybe for my Pokemon, Spikes might come in handy, but for the opponent, it definitely will not. It may as well have just used Growl or something. But then on the Muck, I get poisoned and then it uses Minimize a lot, but luckily I'm able to hit my return at the last minute, and then on the Crobat, I go for Spark and it actually knocks it out and I win. So yeah, I was close to resetting on 2 Elite 4 members, which is really not a good sign in a Johto playthrough. For Entei, I go for a return on the Ariados, and just like before, it lives in very low health, and then on the Fortress, it's 4 times weak to fire, so Ember is a very easy one-shot. And then on the Muck, I go for Dig, the Muck goes for Minimize, Dig misses, luckily it missed Toxic, because Toxic is not 100% accurate, but then I get hit with a Sludge Bomb and get poisoned. That's fine though. Sludge Bomb only does regular poison and not badly poison like Toxic does, so that's fine. And besides, Sludge Bomb has a much higher chance to poison than other poison moves, so that's fine. But then I knock out his Crobat, and then on the final Venomoth, 1 return knocks it out thanks to a crit. So yeah, I wasn't close to failing, but given the right kind of bad luck, I could have had a reset on the muck. Now it's Suicune's turn. This is the first time in the whole run I actually set up Rain Dance, and then Surf knocks out the Ariados in one hit, it knocks out the Venomoth in one hit, it knocks out the Forretress in one hit, but let's see if it can knock out the Muck. And it doesn't. It's so close, but it puts it in low health, it doesn't use Minimize, and then on the Crobat I can just use an Aurora Beam for a very easy win. Although he does try to delay the inevitable with Double Team and Full Restore, but after time, it does end up going down. The next Elite Four member is Bruno. He's a lot better in Gen 2 than he is in Gen 1, but let's see how this goes. On his Hitmontop, I use Spark. The Hitmontop uses Dig. I just use a Spark just to pass the time, and then a second Spark and takes it out. Next up is his one Onix. I use Hidden Power Ice for the easy one-shot, and then next up is Hitmonlee. The Hitmons have been given much higher special defense since Generation 1 with the special split, so special moves aren't always the good solution. So for the Hitmonchan, I actually go for a Return. It does live, but I easily knock it out. And then on the Machamp, I use Spark. It does less than half. It misses Cross Chop. The second Spark actually paralyzes, but then Bruno uses a Max Potion, healing his HP, but he's still poisoned. And then the Machamp is able to land a Cross Chop, but I do live at 44 HP left, so at least I don't have a hard time with Bruno. Now it's Entei's turn. I go for a turn 1 dig, and then the Hitmontop uses a dig of its own to completely avoid my dig. So yeah, I really should be using dig better. Then on the Onix, I use Hidden Power Ice just like Raikou did for the knockout. Then he sends out Machamp right away because the Machamp has Rock Slide. I use Return for over half, Rock Slide leaves me at 76 HP, and then I can take out the Machamp and level up to level 50. With level 50, I can actually one-shot the Hitmonlee. Can I one-shot the Hitmonchan? I don't know, I ran out of returns, so now I have to use Dig. I get hit with Mach Punch, come back up, use Dig, and then it uses Fire Punch on me like an idiot, and I can actually move on from Bruno. So yeah, it's a good thing running out of returns didn't cause a loss. I think of the 3 Johto beasts, Suicune is going to have the easiest time with Bruno. I use a Rain Dance on the first turn, Stall with Hidden Power because the Hitmontop used Dig, and then Surf one-hits the Hitmontop, the Hitmonchan, the Hitmonlee, and then on the Machamp, the Rain ends up stopping, so Surf only does half damage, and then it crits me with Cross Chop, but luckily it's not enough to knock me out, and then I can take out the Machamp, and obviously the Onix is not going to be hard. The Onix is never really hard for anybody. The 4th Elite Four member, and the hardest one in my opinion, is Karen. With Raikou, Return does less than half, I get hit with Sand Attack and Confuse Ray, and I'm just constantly hitting myself while the Umbreon is just standing there menacingly. But I eventually knock out the Umbreon. Then on the Vileplume, I hit myself in Confusion, it hits me with Stun Spore, so I decide to just immediately reset. Karen is generally hard for almost every Pokemon just because of that Umbreon, but before I go back into the next fight, I actually equip the Bitter Berry just in case I get confused. It's either the Bitter Berry or the Paralysis Cure Berry that's helpful here, but I choose the Bitter Berry. Then on the second try, I use Spark on Umbreon, it misses Sand Attack, I paralyze it, and then it uses Feint Attack and I knock it out with Return. So yeah, I never got confused. Then on the Vileplume, I use Hidden Power to almost knock it out, but not quite. If I was level 50, I would have knocked it out. Then on the Gengar, I use Bite, doing 3/4 damage, Lick crits me, but luckily doesn't paralyze, and then on the Houndoom, Houndoom has really bad defense, so 2 returns knocks it out very easily. Well, technically 3 because she used a Max Potion, but it was gonna die in 2 returns. And then her final Pokemon is Murkrow, and really, who's scared of a Murkrow? For Entei, I start off with a Return, which gets a critical hit and knocks out the Umbreon in a single hit. If you knock out the Umbreon in 1 hit, that is very, very good. Almost no Pokemon can do that unless you can deal super effective damage, but even then it'd be kinda close. And then on the rest of her team, I get pretty much very easy one-shots, and then after I defeat the Houndoom, I finally learn Flamethrower over Ember. Just in time for the Vileplume too, so yeah, I just had a one-shot breeze with Karen. That's rare. So it's interesting to see that Entei had a near damageless free Karen. Let's see if Suicune can get that. I use Surf on Umbreon for less than half, I get hit with Sand Attack, but luckily the second Surf gets a high roll and I knock it out. Then on the Vileplume, I use an Aurora Beam, it misses Stun Spore, and I land another Aurora Beam successfully. Now on the Gengar, I use Surf and it lives it in red health, but then it just uses Curse to knock itself out. That's fine though. Her final two Pokemon are Murkrow and Houndoom, so as long as I can just land a Surf, I don't have to worry about dying. Although on the Houndoom, I came pretty close to dying, but on the very last minute, I'm able to land a Surf and win the fight. So yeah, that could have gone real bad. But now it is time for the champion of Johto, Lance. Lance leads off with his Gyarados. Gyarados is 4 times weak to electric, so one spark just completely destroys it. And then on his Dragonite, it's 4 times weak to ice, so a Hidden Power takes it out. And then Hidden Power takes out his second Dragonair, as well as his third Dragonite. So yeah, his dragons were not worth worrying about. And then I deny the chance to learn Reflect. Now on the Charizard, I use Return to do half damage. I really should have used Spark. I don't know why I didn't use Return. Oh well. And then on the Aerodactyl, I remember to use Spark. It gets the one hit, and I defeat Lance with a time of 1 hour, 28 minutes, and 48 seconds with 8 resets at level 51, and a game time of 4 hours and 5 minutes. For Entei, it doesn't have a good solution for the Gyarados. I just use Return, and luckily the Gyarados tends to just use Rain Dance turn 1 for no reason, so I just take it out easily. I just can't use a fire move. Then on the Aerodactyl, I almost one-shot it with Hidden Power Ice, but then Aerodactyl goes for Rock Slide, doing a decent chunk of damage, and then his first Dragonite comes out. All 3 Dragonites are gonna be one-shots with Hidden Power Ice. And then on the Charizard, I use 1 Return to do 3/4 damage, and the Charizard isn't able to pose a threat at all. And then, funnily enough, on the final Dragonite, it actually survives a Hidden Power, but luckily it doesn't do enough damage to kill me, since his strongest Dragonite is the one that has Fire Blast, so it really couldn't have done much to me. And then Entei defeats Lance with a time of 1 hour, 24 minutes, and 31 seconds with 2 resets at level 52, and a game time of 4 hours and 2 minutes. Now let's see how Suicune does at Lance, and then we can go over the splits, and then go over the Kanto region. For Suicune, this Gyarados is another reason to have Hidden Power Electric, because you don't have to deal with spamming Surf or Aurora Beam on the Gyarados for like a 5-hit or something. And then on the Dragonites, obviously Aurora Beam's gonna take him out very easily, so once all 3 of his Dragonite are taken out, the next Pokemon he sends out is Aerodactyl. I just go for Surf, outspeed it, and easily get the one-shot. And obviously Charizard's gonna have the one-shot too due to it being weak to water, and then once I knock it out, Suicune gets a Lance split of 1 hour, 25 minutes, and 14 seconds, with 1 reset at level 54, and a game time of 4 hours and 8 minutes. These Elite 4 runs have been honestly pretty comparable, except Entei actually did kinda struggle here, and Raikou definitely struggled with Will. Suicune never really struggled with anybody, so that's really good to see. Entei is still in first place however, but by around 40 seconds or so. Suicune is very closely behind. And honestly, Raikou's only 3 minutes behind Suicune, so Raikou does have a chance at getting first place. But the Kanto region is generally very easy. All the gym leaders here are just pathetic except for Blue. But when I go over Raikou, I'll talk about like what kind of teams they all have, and then when I talk about Entei and Suicune, I might just go straight to Blue unless someone else provided a challenge. So now, we move on to Chapter 4, Kanto. On 3 times game speed, the Kanto section of the game takes around a half hour to complete. Like I said before, most of the gym leaders are very easy, and there aren't many rare candies you need to get over here. But for those who don't know what I do, I'll still go over what I do in the Kanto section, and then for the other Pokemon I'll just skip it. In order to get to Kanto, I have to board the SS Aqua, help the old man find his lost daughter, and then I can get off the ship to Vermilion City. Fun fact, you can actually just fly to Vermilion as soon as you get off the boat, which is actually faster than having to go through all the different corridors just to get onto the dock. And then once I arrive, I actually go inside the Pokemon fan club, talk to the director, and get a free rare candy just for listening to him talk about his fetishes with Rapidash. So yeah, let's move on. I then get on my bike, go through Saffron City, and then I go through Lavender Town. The main reason I'm going this way is to go straight to the power plant just so I can talk to the owner and then get the machine part to spawn inside of Cerulean City. I can go through Rock Tunnel in the dark, but since I have to get Flash in my runs anyway for the Whirl Islands rare candy, I just use Flash and I just make it really easy on myself. And then once I talk to the guy who runs the power plant, I then fly to Celadon City, and then I can talk to this trash can here to get the leftovers. The leftovers basically heal 1/16 of your HP every single turn, so this will be a very helpful item to have. I'm not going to equip it right now though, because the leftovers takes a lot of time in between fights because it has to show that text on screen, you healed HP, so I really only equip the leftovers for hard fights. And besides, I have the pink bow active currently, which boosts my return attacking power by 10%. Plus, in Generation 2, all of the badges give type badge boosts, so Whitney's badge gives me a 12.5% boost to normal moves. This is not present in Heart Gold Soul Silver because in Gen 4 and onwards they eliminated badge boosts entirely. So now I take on Erica. Everything here is a very easy one-shot sweep with Hidden Power Ice because I'm level 52, 53, and I'm just outspeeding everything. I'm very powerful. Like, if you look at my vitamin usage in the bottom left, I can't take any more calcium or carbos, and the other ones I'm quite close to maxing out. So these trainers are just not worth fussing over. Although the Blossom does survive a hit, I mean, what's it gonna do anyway? Crit a Solar Beam? Even then it'll do like 20 damage. The next gym leader I take on is Sabrina. She only has 3 Pokemon in Crystal. She leads with Espeon, which actually survives an Ember, and tries to use a Sand attack, but luckily it fails. So Sabrina can kind of be like Karen, if you let her be. But then on the Mr. Mime, I knock it out with 2 returns, and then on the Alakazam, due to its absurdly low defense stat, I knock it out with 1 return. Then I can bike north to Cerulean City, enter the gym, and then get the machine part, and then I can go on the Route 24-25 area of the game where there are an abundance of trainers. This area pretty much has half of all the mandatory trainers in Kanto outside of gyms, so you want this area to go over pretty quickly. Plus, when I get to the very end, when I get to Bill's old house, I see Misty with her boyfriend. I chase off the boyfriend away, and then I can go talk to Misty and get her back to her gym. But before I take her on, I use Teleport to teleport back to the power plant, since the Pokemon Center in front of the power plant you cannot fly to in this game, so you have to set up teleport there. So that's just another reason Abra is very helpful. This is pretty much the last spot Abra helps, but Abra is just a really big help. I just wanted to emphasize that. Then I return the machine part and get the TM for Zap Cannon. This move is 100 base power and 50% accurate, but it guarantees paralysis. So I can definitely tell you in this run I am not using this move. With the power plant restored, I can take on the gym leader Misty. She uses all water type Pokemon, although she does try and pull a fast one on you by pulling out a Quagsire, which is completely immune to electric moves. I use Bite to do half, and then Amnesia to boost its special defense, so it actually takes 3 attacks to knock it out. But luckily Misty never goes for a full restore or anything, so I still win the fight pretty darn easily. So yeah, you just have to make sure you pay attention so you don't spam an electric move on her Quagsire. Then I can enter Vermilion City and take on Lieutenant Surge's gym. There's actually one trainer in here who has a team of 4 Voltorbs. They each give over 1,000 experience apiece, and you have to fight a trainer in here to get to Surge. You can either fight the guy with 4 Electrode, or just the guy with a Pikachu and a Flaffy. I fight both of them in this run because I thought they were both mandatory, but I now know you only have to fight one of them. So whenever I have to fight one, I always fight the one with the 4 Electrodes. You almost get an entire level out of it. Then on Lieutenant Surge, he leads with Raichu, which goes down to 1 return. You know, I've gained a new hatred for Raichu. Steve and I have been doing blue and crystal randomizers. We've played Raichu now in both games, and I can definitely assure you he hates the Pokemon now. But as you can see there on Surge's Magneton, it doesn't have Thunder Wave. It tried to use Zap Cannon, but luckily it missed. And then the rest of his team goes down pretty easily. But the thing is, if given the opportunity, his team could outspeed you and use moves like Double Team, or it could hit a Zap Cannon and paralyze you. So in a normal playthrough, make sure you can outspeed his Pokemon, or just delay him if you can, because Surge can be difficult if he's the first gym leader you face. Then I can wake up the Snorlax and run away from it. Fun fact, this is where I used to get the leftovers. I would just use the Master Ball, but since I discovered the leftovers in the trash can, I basically never catch the Snorlax anymore. And then I can now access the western part of Kanto, where there are 4 more gym leaders. The first one I take on is Brock. Since I have Hidden Power Ice, all of his rock and ground type Pokemon are very easy one-shots, but he does try to pull a fast one. He has a Kabutops and an Omastar, which resist ice moves. And as you can see on Omastar, I misclick and I just keep using Hidden Power over and over again. I really should have switched to Spark, but I guess I was just looking at my other monitor or something. But on the Kabutops, I realized what I did, and I used Spark on it. Then I go all the way south to Cinnabar Island, which is in complete ruins. There's a hidden rare candy here, so I get that. And then I can talk to Blue and have him teleport to his gym. Fun fact, in Gen 2, you do not need all the Kanto badges to fight Blue. The requirement was only added in Heart Gold and Soul Silver. So you could theoretically fight Blue as the first gym leader, although no one would ever do that. Blue is the most difficult gym leader in Kanto, so you have to pretty much fight everybody first anyway, so there's really no reason to do that. And then since Cinnabar Islands is in ruins, I have to surf east to the Seafoam Islands where Blaine has his new gym. But just because he has a new gym, it doesn't mean his team's any good. Like, his team is honestly worse than in Yellow version, because he no longer has an Arcanine, but he has a Magcargo, which is 4 times weak to water and ground. So yeah, it's really slow too. It's just a bad Pokemon overall. But now I only have 2 gyms left. I need to take on Janine before I can fight Blue. I can technically go to Janine by taking the cycling road, but the path I take, I like to go to Brock, then Blaine, and then surf to the Seafoam Islands, and then just do a tiny bit more surfing to Fuchsia, because this is a much more efficient method than using the cycling road. And then on Janine, all of her Pokemon are lower leveled than the Elite Four. So like, her team is never hard. With almost any Pokemon, just spam Return. That's literally all you need. I could be running a Sunkern at level 60 and it could probably one-shot everything with Return. That's how bad Janine's team is. And then once I defeat Janine, I get the 7 Kanto badges, and now there's only 1 more badge to go. Let us fight Blue. Blue leads off with his level 56 Pidgeot. On this Pokemon, I use Spark, which luckily does the one hit because Pidgeot is pretty defensive. Then on the Rhydon, I use Hidden Power to knock it out in 1 hit. Its special defense may be nice, but it's not good. And then on Alakazam, Return does the one shot. I level up to level 59. Next up is Exeggutor. I use Hidden Power to deal 3/4 damage, and it just goes for a Solar Beam without setting up Sunny Day, so yep, no damage here. Then on Arcanine, I use Return for less than half. Flamethrower crits and does about half, and then it hits a second Flamethrower and leaves me at 61 HP. Okay, this is concerning. I go for Return, and then I instead try and go for Bite to see if I can get a flinch. I get left on 9 HP left, I'm out of returns, and Arcanine knocks me out with Extreme Speed. Man, that was bad. Before re-attempting this, I actually use all of my rare candies because for all 3 of the Johto beasts, I only need to be a minimum of level 65 for red, and I just realized with all my rare candies, I can easily get to that level. So I used all my rare candies to get to level 67, learn Crunch over Bite, and Crunch is an 80 base power dark type move, so it is a really nice move to have. I wish Suicune got that move too, but only Raikou gets it. And then once I defeat the Arcanine, I use Spark on the Gyarados for the 4 times effective damage, and I defeat Blue and the Kanto section with a time of 1 hour, 49 minutes, and 3 seconds. I'm not going to go over the rest of the weak Kanto gym leaders with the other two. If one of them struggled at somebody, I'll talk about it, but if not, I'm going to skip straight to blue. For Entei, I didn't struggle with anybody in Kanto, so we're straight at blue. I used all my rare candies before this fight, so I am now level 65. I use Hidden Power, and unfortunately it does not one-shot the Pidgeot, but it doesn't matter, it's pretty weak. Then on the Rhydon, I use Hidden Power like Raikou did, and I easily knock it out. Then on the Gyarados, I don't have a really good solution for it, so I use Return to do over half. It sets up Rain Dance like an idiot, and now next up is the Alakazam. I wasn't planning on flamethrowing it anyway, so one Return easily knocks it out. Then on the Arcanine, it uses Extreme Speed for little damage. I use Return for 3/4 damage. All it's doing is Extreme Speed, funnily enough. And then on the Exeggutor, the rain stops just in time, and one Flamethrower knocks out the Exeggutor, and Entei gets a blue split of 1 hour, 44 minutes, and 40 seconds. I'm sure you could have predicted this too, but Suicune did not struggle at anyone in Kanto either, so now we are at blue. As usual, he starts off with Pidgeot. I didn't use any of my rare candies yet, so I'm still at level 60. I use Aurora Beam on Pidgeot, and then it mirror moves its own Aurora Beam, so I set up Rain Dance. It mirror moves Rain Dance, which fails, and then I use Surf for the knockout. Then on Exeggutor, I use Aurora Beam to deal 3/4 damage. It then replaces the rain with Sunny Day, so I'm going to have to set up the rain real soon. And then at level 61, it gives me the chance if I want to learn Mirror Coat, but I have no reason to want to use that move. So on Alakazam, I use Rain Dance after saying no to Mirror Coat, and then I knock it out with Return. Then on the Gyarados, I use Hidden Power Electric for the one-shot. And now finally is the Rhydon. One Surf just easily destroys like 5,000 of these Rhydons. Oh wait, nope, there's one more, False Alarm, Arcanine. But oh well, he may as well just had nothing left because it goes down to one Surf, and Suicune gets a blue split of 1 hour, 43 minutes, and 3 seconds. Okay, things are definitely getting heated for sure. Suicune has now retaken the lead over Entei by around 1 minute and 37 seconds. This is because it was able to one-shot things more often than Entei during the Kanto section, while Entei had to two-shot things. Raikou is still like 4 minutes behind Entei, so we can safely assure Raikou is not winning this race, but this is between Entei and Suicune. So now we can just talk to Professor Oak and then go through Mount Silver, and then we can go fight the final trainer in the game. It is time for Red. For Raikou, I equipped the leftovers over Pinkbow because now I want the leftovers. Red leads off with his level 81 Pikachu, but this Pikachu's never worth threatening over. Its defensive stats are pathetic, although it survives a crunch and I get hit with Charm. Alright, that's fine, not a big deal. I wasn't going to use Return too much anyway. And then on the Espeon, I use 2 crunches. All it does is set up a Reflect, which isn't really going to do anything. Then on the Snorlax, I use a Spark to hopefully get a Paralysis, which I do. It's fully paralyzed. I plan to just keep spamming that until I get Amnesia, and then I can start using Return. But as you can see, Return is doing very little damage, but that was because the Reflect barrier was up. But even if the Reflect barrier is taken down, like, it's really not going to take much damage at all, and I easily get knocked out. So yeah, I'm going to have to hope for no Charm on the Pikachu then. On the second try, I don't get a Charm from Pikachu, and then when I get back to the Snorlax, I have a much easier time since Return is doing around 1/4 of its HP this time. Although this time, it uses Body Slam and paralyzes me. So yeah, that was bad. To be honest, in Crystal, Red's team is generally pretty easy, except for his Snorlax, because it's very defensively bulky, and it has Amnesia to boost its special defense, so if you're a special attacker, you're out of luck on the Snorlax. After many tries on Red, level 68, like even though I wanted to be level 65 for Red, I just very underestimated just how hard his Snorlax would be, so after a lot of resets, I actually just get out of Mount Silver, do a bit of training on some trainers to get to level 70, and hopefully this damage rounding threshold makes all the difference. Red's Pikachu goes down in 1 hit, and then on Espeon, I use a Crunch. It does 3/4 damage this time. It uses Reflect, which isn't going to matter until we get to the Snorlax. And then on the Snorlax, I use a Spark, hope for Paralysis. I don't get it. but I just keep spamming Spark until the Reflect goes away. But the Body Slam is still doing pretty decent damage. And now I just spam Return, the Reflect has gone away, the Snorlax is in low yellow health, and now Return has actually KO'd the Snorlax. Now we're on the Venusaur, finally. Hidden Power Ice does slightly less than half, but luckily the second one gets a high roll and I knock it out. And then on the Charizard, obviously I'm going to go for Spark. Can it go down one shot? Nope. It uses a Flamethrower boosted by the Sun, but luckily it only does less than half damage. And then, finally, we're on the Blastoise. I use a Spark, it does more than half, all it does is set up a Rain Dance like an idiot, and then I take out the Blastoise, and Raikou has beaten Pokemon Crystal with a time of 2 hours, 4 minutes, and 35 seconds, with 21 resets at level 70, and a game time of 5 hours and 28 minutes. That was honestly very bad. If I had just gotten a couple extra levels for Red, I could have had a much easier time, but yeah, in routing, I basically just underestimated Red Snorlax, but I'm not going to underestimate him again, especially with special attackers. But let's see how Entei and Suicune do. Let's start with Suicune. With Suicune, since I had to use a couple of rare candies earlier on in the run, I actually have to fight some optional trainers just to get to level 63. I only have 2 rare candies left, and I need to be level 65 for Red, so as soon as I get to 63, I teleport back to Mount Silver. Before I go to Red, I go all the way to Goldenrod City, and I can go buy 4,000 coins and get the Ice Beam taught over Aurora Beam. Now we mean business. And then I use all of my rare candies, and then take on Red. As you can see now, I was able to level up Suicune to level 72. I start off on the Pikachu by using a Rain Dance. Luckily it goes for Charm, and then I can take it out with one Surf. Luckily it didn't go for Thunder, that would have been bad. And then on the Venusaur, I use one Ice Beam to do more than half. It sets up a Sunny Day to get rid of the rain, so I used Rain Dance so it couldn't use a turn 1 Solar Beam. And then I take out the Venusaur. Now we're on to Espeon. A Surf is almost able to take out the Espeon, but not quite. Now we're on the Snorlax. This is the main reason I needed the higher level and Rain Dance. It was just to deal with Red Snorlax. I basically need to rely on a crit or a freeze or something because I don't have a good physical move solution for Snorlax. But then on the Snorlax, Suicune gets a first try freeze with Ice Beam, and then I can quickly knock out his team before he uses a full restore. I'm honestly surprised Red didn't use a full restore. He tends to use those when his Pokemon get hit with status moves, but that time it didn't. I don't know why. Oh well, it doesn't matter. Next up is his Blastoise. I use 3 hidden powers to take it out. And then next up is the Charizard. Obviously no one should question if the Charizard's going to be hard, because it's going to die to one Surf. And then Suicune defeats Red and beats Pokemon Crystal with a time of 1 hour, 51 minutes, and 26 seconds, with one reset at level 72 and a game time of 5 hours and 25 minutes. That is a pretty decent time for Suicune in Crystal, but can Entei beat that time? Let's find out. On Red, I use all my rare candies to get to level 68, and I one-shot his Pikachu with Return. You may now notice I have Sunny Day and Solar Beam on my moveset. I set up Sunny Day on the Espeon, it hits me with a pretty strong Psychic, and then I use one Flamethrower. Can I knock it out? Unfortunately it's close, but no. It just goes for Reflect. Anyway, now we're on the Blastoise. Due to the AI, since I have Sunny Day up, the Blastoise is going to prioritize Rain Dance, so as soon as it uses Rain Dance, I misclick and go for Solar Beam again, and then Surf quickly knocks out Entei. Okay, I should have reset up the Sun there. Let me try again. On the second attempt, when I get back to the Blastoise, I still have the Sun up, so I use Solar Beam to do way more than half. It just goes for Surf instead because it detected a kill, so I get another loss. On the third try, I get back to the Blastoise with much more health this time. I use Solar Beam to do more than half, it uses Rain Dance, I reset up the Sun, and then Surf does kinda pathetic damage. It still does a decent amount of damage, but kinda pathetic for a Blastoise. And then a second Solar Beam knocks it out. Now we're on to the Snorlax. I'm using a very strong physical attacker. I spam Flamethrower until I get the Amnesia, and then I use Return for the rest of the way. Hopefully Body Slam does not paralyze me. Luckily it doesn't, and a couple of returns knock it out quite nicely. And then we're on to the Charizard. I use one return to deal slightly less than half. It uses a flamethrower, which doesn't do much. I use a second return. It uses a second flamethrower. Leftovers are basically keeping me alive at this point. I don't set up Sunny Day again because that'll let the Venusaur use a turn 1 Solar Beam. I don't want that, so I knock out the Venusaur with 2 flamethrowers, and Entei has beaten Pokemon Crystal with a time of 1 hour, 50 minutes, and 21 seconds at level 68 with 4 resets and a game time of 5 hours and 14 minutes. To be honest, I did not expect these results. Despite Suicune having only 1 reset, and even on the red fight, it actually froze the Snorlax, which I needed. I needed either a critical hit or a freeze on the Snorlax. That was my only way of beating it. Despite all that, and Entei had more resets, it still got a faster time than Suicune. In almost every other game I've played, the fire type generally does worse. I've done the Johto beasts in Pokemon Leaf Green. I have it as a live stream. It's one of the first live streams I've ever done. And I remember Entei in Pokemon Leaf Green actually is very, very bad, especially since the first gym leader is Brock, who has Rock Tomb. So yeah, I did not expect Entei to do so good. The main reason I think it did so good is its much higher attack stat than the others combined with Return, which is basically an MVP of Gen 2. It was able to just one-shot a whole lot of things, and it was also the fact I had Solar Beam to deal with my water type weakness. Suicune really does not have a good answer for other water types aside from Hidden Power Electric, which is obviously nowhere near as good as Entei's Solar Beam. Plus, the reason I think Raikou did bad, it has good special attack and speed, but its moveset's kinda bad. The fact it doesn't get Thunderbolt by level up is just kinda bad. Like, I could have played on a Wednesday or Saturday to get Thunderbolt, but I needed Return for a bunch of fights, so I had to deal with weaker moves the whole time. Plus, I got Crunch super late. Plus, those resets on the rival fight didn't help. And the red battles were honestly just bad. Honestly, that was just poor routing. Like, I just underestimated just how bad the Snorlax would be, so I had to go get some levels. But anyway, this was a really good Crystal race. I hope y'all enjoyed. The next video for the Speedrunner 028 December Mania will be Generation 3. We will be doing Pokemon Sapphire with the Hoenn starters, Sceptile, Blaziken, and Swampert. This will be a fun one to watch. I hope y'all enjoy it. Please like, comment, subscribe if you want to see more, and be sure to follow my socials or support me on Patreon and YouTube memberships if you like the content I make. Any support of any kind really helps, even as little as liking the video and sharing it with a friend. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.